Hey everyone, it's Richie. Hope you guys are all doing well. No face cam today because I'm doing another tier list video. It's been a while. My last tier list video on the Season 1 meta did really well, so I figured I'd do one for held items. I'm not ready to do my Season 2 tier list just yet. I want to let the meta develop a little bit more, and I want to play some more tournaments, so maybe sometime next week. That being said, I'm going to be ranking every item available in Pokemon Legends ZA, and as you can see, there's a lot of them. Most of them are actually not available in the game, hence the not in PLZA tier, but yeah. Quick explanation of tiers here. Here we have not in PLZA. The item's not in the game, you can't use it. The don't use tier, I'll get into that. I've already put a bunch of items in here just to save some time. I'll explain them, not all individually, but just overall. Niche is going to be items that are good on only a certain subset of Pokemon. Good on one Pokemon will be items that are generally better than the ones in niche, but are only good on specific Pokemon that are meta relevant. Solid will be items that are more splashable, solid choices overall, and meta will be, of course, well, items that are a very big part of the meta. You should expect to see this in every tournament and most ranked games. At least one player is going to be using one of these, most likely. They're just good on a lot of different Pokemon. A couple of quick disclaimers here before I start talking about the list. This list is going to be based on not only my ranked experience, but my tournament experience, if you don't know who I am or if you're new. I play this game pretty competitively. I play in a lot of tournaments. I've been able to get pretty consistent top 4 finishes, and I also hold my own tournaments every Sunday over on the Discord. And the other thing is that, of course, this is going to be an FFA tier list, mimicking the same, mode in ranked and the same mode that most tournaments are running. I'm not really familiar, and I haven't really played the 1v1 format. This is going to be strictly about free-for-all. I'm sure the list would look a lot different if we were talking about singles, but that's not going to be this list. Okay, so before I talk about these items that I still have to rank, let's talk about the items in don't use really quick. Every single item here in don't use pretty much falls into one of 3 categories. Either A, the item boosts damage of a type that is not meta relevant at the moment. B, it's a weakness berry that is also not relevant at the moment because there's not any crazy attackers for that type. Or C, your name is Big Root and you're really fucking bad because healing in this game really isn't all that good. First up is Assault Vest, and this is going straight on over to the meta tier. There's a lot of good AV Pokemon, and the Assault Vest can turn a Pokemon with meager defensive capabilities into a powerhouse. There's a lot of Pokemon whose best sets already are 4 attacking moves anyway, so Assault Vest just becomes a bonus. I think some of the best users that we've seen in the Season 2 format have been Yveltal and Clawitzer. Clover won my last tournament over this Sunday using AV Yveltal, if I recall correctly. It just gives the Pokemon a lot of defensive capability. I mean, AV Yveltal is able to live like +1 Xerneas, Moonblast, and Thunderbolt very reliably. And Clawitzer is another good pick. Again, this is a Pokemon that already likes to use 4 moves anyway. You can take +1 Xerneas Thunderbolt, you can take a lot of special hits, and retaliate with your big array of coverage. Pokemon who also have access to self-healing moves, again like Yveltal's Oblivion Wing, also tend to be good users of AV. And yes, the loss of Protect sucks. Yes, the fact that you can't boost sucks, but again, there's a lot of Pokemon in the format that, well, their best sets are 4 attacking moves anyway, so it's not that big of a detriment. Next up, let's talk about the Babiri Berry, and the Babiri Berry is good on exactly one Pokemon, and that is Xerneas. So here's the Xerneas problem, right? Pretty much the only way to take down Xerneas in one hit is to hit it with a physical move that it's weak to. Why not a special move? Well, because it boosts its special defense with Calm Mind or Geomancy. That being said, the only type pretty much that is relevant that can hit Xerneas for super effective is Steel. Yes, there is Poison, but Poison Jab and Gunk Shot are so unbelievably fucking terrible that they're just not worth using. Every physical poison type is pretty much bad as a result. That being said, the only weakness to hit Xerneas left is Steel, and the Babiri Berry helps Xerneas maneuver around this. Babiri Berry can help Xerneas live moves which it otherwise wouldn't, like +1 Excadrill Iron Head, for example, which would normally one-shot it from full. And preventing yourself from getting one-shot in a game like PLZA is a really big deal because you're denying your opponent a point. It can also help certain Xerneas sets flip these matchups, again specifically Excadrill. If you're going mixed Xerneas and you accounted for the matchup, then your close combat should be able to just one-shot it in return. So I think Babiri Berry has a lot of value on specifically Xerneas and only Xerneas. It's the only user of it, but it's a good item on Xerneas. So yeah. This is me forgetting to put Black Belt in the don't use tier. It's bad. Don't use it. Charcoal. I'm going to put Charcoal in niche. There's a couple cases for Charcoal right now. A lot of the other stab boosting items are bad, but Fire is a pretty good type in the format right now just because Metagross is everywhere. Why is Metagross everywhere? Well, because it's a Xerneas check, silly. So the fact that Charcoal can get certain Pokemon to the threshold of KOing Metagross without having to invest a bunch of EVs is kind of nice. Delphox and Shandy might be good users of Charcoal, but I don't think any other Fire type right now is relevant enough. I think it could be a decent option on those Pokemon to hit your breakpoints easily and to save some EVs, but otherwise I think it's a very niche item. Next, let's talk about Eviolite. I'm also going to put Eviolite Violite and Niche. Pretty much the only user of Violite that's meta relevant is Doublade, and Doublade is definitely not like a nothing burger Pokemon because you are a steel type with access to Swords Dance, meaning you can one-shot Xerneas with Iron Head probably. I don't even know the calc to be honest. But yeah, outside of Doublade, Eviolite is just kind of not very good. Pokemon Legends ZA is a game that promotes offense over defense, so the fact that Eviolite makes you bulkier isn't super great in this game. You'd rather just kind of use a different Pokemon that can provide more offensive pressure. Again, Doublade is the most meta relevant user of Eviolite, but it's still a very rare pick. Next up, let's talk about an actual good belt for once, Expert Belt, which is also going to go in the meta tier. Expert Belt is really nice for a couple of reasons. The 20% damage boost on super effective moves does two things for you. One, it could allow you to get KOs which you normally wouldn't be able to get. And two, it might allow you to invest less in your offensive stat and more in your defensive stats, which I think is really valuable in this game because the more points you're denying your opponents, the better. There's a lot of players heavily investing into bulk in this game, even though I said it was super offense oriented, and that's because, again, point denial is a very strong thing that you can do in this game. In my opinion, the less offensive EVs you need in this game, the better, and Expert Belt lets you do exactly that. Or even if you do decide to just go 252 attack or special attack or whatever, Expert Belt is just going to boost your damage even further, letting you get KOs where, again, you maybe wouldn't be able to normally. Definitely calc for Expert Belt to see if it's necessary on your Pokemon, but in a lot of cases, again, it can get you KOs where you normally wouldn't be able to, or it allows you to invest less EVs than you normally would have. Next up is Focus Band. Don't use this shit, it's garbage. Instead, use this item, the Focus Sash, which I'm going to put in Solid. I don't put this in meta because it's not as common as like Expert Belt or Assault Vest, but recently I've seen an uptick in usage with Sash Excadrill, and I think it's really good. Being able to survive any one hit is really nice because it lets you win trades that you normally wouldn't be able to. And again, point denial in this game is something that I think is very strong. So being able to deny your opponent a point while also potentially winning the trade is huge. Focus Sash lets something like Excadrill just set up in someone's face, tank a close combat or something, and then maybe just one-shot them in retaliation, which is really nice. I've also heard talks about Sash Garchomp, which I think could be good to win the Garchomp mirror, so yeah, I think Sash has a lot of real usage in this game, and I think it's a good item. Next up is King's Rock, and I'm going to put this in Don't Use. It increases flinch chance. I know every multi-hit move in this game has a chance to flinch, and you could pair it with something like Iron Head, but it seems too gimmicky. I think there's just other items that you would want that work better offensively. Flinching in this game isn't nearly as good as it is in turn-based Pokemon, in my opinion, since like there's still two other players that could do damage to you in an FFA format, you know? So yeah, overall, I don't think King's Rock is super worth it. Next up is Life Orb, and Life Orb is absolutely going into the meta tier. This is potentially the best non-Megastone item in the game. There is no reward for surviving in this game. You don't get anything for living the longest in an FFA game or dying the least. You get nothing for that. So the amount of times that your Pokemon goes down doesn't really matter as long as you're still winning in points. Meaning that Life Orb is really, really good. Yes, taking 10% of your HP every attack sucks, but 30% increased damage on all of your moves is ridiculous. In a lot of cases, using a Life Orb is better than Mega Evolving if you're just trying to get more damage. Chandelure is a prime example of this. It's a very similar concept to Expert Belt where you can save EVs or get KOs where you normally wouldn't be able to. For example, my preferred Chandelure set is actually max defense with 108 special attack and the rest dumped into HP. The HP dump could probably be optimized further, but the reason I'm 108 special attack modest is because 108 modest special attack with a Life Orb is able to pick up the KO on Metagross with Heat Wave, meaning that I have more EVs free to put into my defensive investment, which is really good. Another good user of Life Orb in my opinion is Talonflame. Yes, you do a lot of recoil damage to yourself with Brave Bird and Flare Blitz, but those moves' high base power combined with access to Swords Dance means that Talonflame is pretty much just one-shotting anything that doesn't resist it, as long as it's not bulky. And if you're weak to any of those two moves, then you're getting one-shot even if you are bulky. Like Flare Blitz is destroying Metagross, for example, right? And even if you are killing yourself with Life Orb, I mean, who cares as long as you're ahead in points, right? That's the only thing that matters. Again, the amount of times you die doesn't matter as long as you're ahead. So going 1-to-1, especially if you're trading into someone who's currently in 4th place, is good for you. Life Orb is a contender for the best item in the game. It's very broken, and yeah, I think it's good. Damage boosting in this game in general is just very good. Next up is the Light Orb, and obviously this is going on the good on one Pokemon tier. I mean, Pikachu is the only person that can use Light Orb. Now, this is an item tier list, not a Pokemon tier list. Would I tell you to use Pikachu? Fuck no, I wouldn't. Pikachu has absolutely paper-thin defenses and dies to literally any neutral unboosted hit off of most Pokemon. However, the power of Light Orb cannot be denied. I mean, after a charge, Pikachu can one-shot Xerneas from full with Volt Tackle. That is a very hard thing to accomplish. Not a lot of other Pokemon can one-shot Xerneas with a neutral hit. That's something that's very rare. So as paper-thin as Pikachu might be, that is a very real niche, and Light Orb enables it to do that. So Light Orb is of course good on Pikachu. Would I recommend using Pikachu? No, definitely not. But honestly, just the fact that it can one-shot Xerneas alone means that it has a niche, and Light Orb gives it that niche. So yeah, it's good on one Pokemon, that Pokemon being Pikachu. Next Next up, let's talk about Lumberry, and I'm going to put Lumberry in don't use. I just don't think status conditions are strong in this game at all. Again, this is a free-for-all tier list. This is not taking into account 1v1 format, otherwise this list would look probably a good bit different. But like I said, status effects are just not something that's very common online at all. No one's using Will-O-Wisp, no one is using Thunder Wave, etc. If you get status, it's because of a secondary effect of a move, like Flamethrower having a chance to burn, or Ice Beam having a chance to freeze, and stuff like that. And it's not worth teching on Lumberry just for that low percentage of that happening. Next we have the Magnet, which I'm going to put good on one Pokemon. Ampharos is currently the most relevant electric type in the game, just like it was in Season 1, and Magnet is great on it. Magnet boosted Charge Thunderbolt allows you to one-shot a lot of non-bulky neutral targets, which is good, and if they're weak to Thunderbolt, then they're definitely just dying from full HP, which is really strong, right? It also really helps that Thunderbolt is one of the best moves in the game. You can't really dodge it, the tracking is amazing, and you can boost it with charge. So yeah, that only makes Magnet even better. Next up is the Muscle Band, and there's no reason to use this thing. If you want a damage boosting item, just use Life Orb or Expert Belt. The Muscle Band increase is only 10%. It's not enough to be relevant in my opinion. Don't use it. Next up is Never Melt Ice, and this is also good on one Pokemon, that Pokemon being Glaceon. Glaceon is the only relevant ice type in the format, if you ask me. There's some other fringe picks like Avalugg that were good in Season 1, but I don't know how good they're going to be in this next season, and also Avalugg doesn't use Never Melt Ice anyway. Glaceon is a good user of Never Melt Ice because its move pool is completely pathetic. A lot of the times, Glaceon's only attacking moves are ice moves with Ice Beam and Freeze Dry, so why not boost both of them with a Never Melt Ice? With Never Melt Ice, it means that you can KO Garchomp through Yachi Berry with Ice Beam, which is super cool, and just overall do a lot of damage, especially after a Calm Mind boost. So yeah, Never Melt Ice is good on Glaceon, and pretty much only Glaceon. Next we have the Normal Gem, and this is going to go into niche tier. Normal Gem in this game, in my opinion, has one purpose, and that is to turn your Hyper Beam into a Nuclear Bomb. I think Heliolisk can be a pretty good user of this, maybe Drampa. It's niche, but Hyper Beam is a pretty usable move in this game, and Normal Gem can turn it into a nuclear level attack. So again, the Heliolisk example is actually super real. You can do enormous damage with Normal Gem Hyper Beam, and pick up KOs on neutral threats that would otherwise resist or be completely immune to your Thunderbolt. So yeah, it's a pretty cool tech, but it's niche. Next up is the Quick Claw, and I'm going to put Quick Claw on good on one Pokemon, that Pokemon being Xerneas. There's no other Pokemon that has been seeing Quick Claw usage at all. Now, me personally, I hate Quick Claw because of the percent chance to activate. I never get it, ever. My opponents seem to always get it, but I never get it. Quick Claw is a very high risk, high reward item, right? When Quick Claw does proc, especially on Xerneas, it is ridiculously broken. Getting Geomancy instantly is broken. Getting an instant Thunderbolt on a weak target is broken. Getting an instant Moonblast is broken. Using moves without startup in this game is completely broken, and Quick Claw lets you do that, I think, like 20% of the time. If you want to gamble, this is a decent item. If not, I would go for more consistent options on Xerneas like Babiri Berry or Fairy Feather or Life Orb or Expert Belt. I personally don't like Quick Claw, but I cannot deny the strength of it when it goes off. It's really strong. Next up is Rocky Helmet, and I'm going to put Rocky Helmet in niche as well. I saw some Rocky Helmet users last format like Avalugg. I haven't seen any this format. I think this held item still has a good bit of potential. It does decent chip damage and could potentially chip people into KO range. Also, with the rise of Sash Excadrill, I think Rocky Helmet has a lot of really nice utility in the sense that it can pop Sash, and therefore now you can just one-shot drill, right? So if we start to see more Sash Pokemon like Garchomp, like Excadrill pop up, I think Rocky Helmet's only going to get better. It's definitely niche, like there's not a lot of good users of it, I don't think, but on the right Pokemon, I think it can cook. Next up, we'll talk about Scope Lens, and there's no reason to use this thing. Yes, you can use a combination of Focus Energy and Scope Lens with high crit ratio moves to really do a lot of damage, but Pokemon where this would be viable strategies usually just benefit off of running more attack boosting items like Life Orb, for example. Critical hits are still good in this game, don't get me wrong. Of course, they ignore stat boost and screens, and they do more damage, but typically the other damage boosting items like Expert Belt or Life Orb are just way more consistent and more worth it. Next up, let's talk about Shell Bell, and Shell Bell is also going to go in the don't use tier. The only good healing item in the entire game is Citrus Berry. Shell Bell's damage to healing ratio is not good enough for me to consider, and again, this is a game that promotes offense over defense. There's no reward for staying alive, so healing yourself isn't even all that good. Next up is the Silk Scarf, and I'm going to put this... The only reason I could ever see you wanting to use Silk Scarf to boost your normal moves is because you're using Hyper Beam, and at that point, just go for the normal gem, right? It's not like there's any good normal type attackers in the game. Yeah, you know what? I've convinced myself. I'm putting it down here. You want to boost your normal moves? Just use a normal gem, man. Next up is Citrus Berry, and I'm going to put this in solid. I think Citrus Berry can be good on Pokemon like Hippowdon and Avalugg that benefit off of staying alive for a while to outtrade their opponent and are naturally very bulky, especially behind screens. Citrus Berry's healing factor of 1/4 is quite significant. Again, it allows you to to outtrade your opponent and maybe win 1v1s that you normally wouldn't be able to win. I think Citrus Berry is exclusively good on really bulky Pokemon, but on those mons in particular, I think it can find good use. I just realized I ranked the Shuca Berry thinking it was the Wacan Berry, so I'm doing this again. The Shuca Berry is going to go into Solid. I think it's the best type resist berry in the game simply because Earthquake is absolutely everywhere. For example, let's say a Mega Metagross is Earthquaking your Delphox or Shandy. Well, now with the Shuca Berry, you can live the Earthquake and then outtrade them with a Heat Wave and just pick up the KO. I surprised a lot of people with Shuca Berry Delphox last tournament. This also applies to ground types, of course. It's invaluable versus Garchomp and Excadrill, for example. Shuca Berry is good because Earthquake is everywhere. That's pretty much it. I don't have to talk about this anymore. You understand why it's good. Next up is Wacan Berry, and this is going to go on the good on one Pokemon tier because Gyarados is pretty much the only Pokemon you would ever want to use this on. If we ever get another Pokemon that's quad weak to Electric that ends up being really meta relevant, then maybe Wacan Berry will be good on that thing as well, but right now Gyarados is the only Pokemon that takes advantage of this thing. And even then, a lot of charge boosted Magnet Electro types still kill it through Wacan Berry anyway. Because of the prevalence of Thunderbolt Xerneas this meta, I think Gyarados has fallen off a lot. I don't think it's nearly as good as it used to be, so Wacan Berry isn't nearly as good, but it is good on Gyarados, so I feel like I should put it on this tier. Next up is Weakness Policy. I'm going to put this in Niche, right? I have not seen Weakness Policy see practically any play, but I think it has some potential, right? Getting +1 without having to boost is nice, but something really cool about this game is that you can actually proc Weakness Policy through Protect. Of course, when you use a plus move in this game, it will do a portion of the damage through Protect, and if you were weak to that move and you manage to protect against it anyway, you'll actually be able to proc Weakness Policy off that little bit of super effective damage through Protect that you did end up taking, and I think that's kind of cool. That alone is enough to give Weakness Policy a genuine niche because it allows you to survive a super effective hit practically guaranteed through Protect and then get +1 off it, which is pretty sick. I really don't even know what Pokemon would take advantage of Weakness Policy well, to be honest, but maybe something like Aggron, since it has a ton of weaknesses. You can proc one of those weaknesses with Weakness Policy thanks to your great natural bulk, and now you can throw off +1 Head Smash. So that sounds kind of interesting, right? Again, I don't know how good it actually is in practice. I don't see this in tournaments at all, but I think Weakness Policy is pretty underexplored, and there's some potential to be had here. Next up, let's talk about White Herb, and I'm going to put White Herb probably in Don't Use. The only reason you would ever use White Herb in this game is to reset your stats after using something like Overheat or Draco Meteor, and in this game that can actually seem pretty valuable on the surface. Why? Because, well, switching is a resource in this game. You only have 3 switches per life, so the fact that you don't force yourself out after burning yourself out with Overheat or Draco Meteor is kind of good since you can reset your stats. Now the problem with this is that, again, I think you'd rather just be using a damage boosting item so you can guarantee that your Overheat is killing something in the first place. The opportunity cost of an item slot just isn't worth it. Honestly, as valuable as switches are in this game, I would rather burn the switch to reset my stats than I would to run a White Herb in order to do so. Next up is Wise Glasses, and this is going right next to Muscle Band because they're both pretty much the exact same thing. The only difference is that Wise Glasses is, you guessed it, the special version. Muscle Band isn't good, Wise Glasses isn't either. If you're going to use any damage boosting item in this game, it better be type specific, or Expert Belt, or Life Orb. Those are your 3 options. Anything else sucks. Don't use these 2. It has come to my attention that I put Leftovers in this tier by accident. Don't use Leftovers. Again, the only healing item that's worth it in this game is Citrus Berry. Healing over time from Leftovers just is not worth it. Same concept as Shell Bell. And finally, we have the Yachi Berry, which will be going on good on one Pokemon. Yachi Berry Garchomp is pretty much the only reason you'd ever use it. Yes, there's other quad weak Pokemon in the game like Dragonite and Salamence, but those don't really see anywhere near as much play as Garchomp. Garchomp is by far the best dragon in the game. It's the best Yachi Berry user in the game, and personally, I am of the opinion that Yachi Berry Garchomp is better than Mega Garchomp. It allows you to survive hits that you normally wouldn't be able to and outtrade your opponent. And there's a lot of Pokemon that are starting to run like random ice coverage to deal with Garchomp specifically, so Yachi Berry is your way around that to ensure that you're winning the trade or at least forcing a switch where you wouldn't have otherwise. Yachi Berry feels almost mandatory on Garchomp to the point where I don't even think you can run Mega Garchomp unless you're running dual screens because the damage reduction is just that necessary. That being said, this is going to do it for this video, so yeah, I'll see you guys around. Take care. Later.